There was not a really terrible story in my life. I was 12 years old, and I lived with my grandmother in the village. It was boring there, and the girls and I were constantly coming up with something. And then one day the three of us went to the cemetery. I can't forget that day, even though it's been 7 years since then. We were freaking out and didn't realize what we were doing. We approached other people's graves and stole flowers and wreaths. In general, we were small stupid. As I remember now, I went with the girls behind the fence of one grave. It was noticeable that a person had recently been buried. The grave was fresh. And we saw fresh flowers there. They were very beautiful. It was clear that someone had grown them in the garden. For a while, we just stood and looked at them. Jane offered to pick them up. We divided them among ourselves. Each had 4 flowers. And then I looked for a moment at the photo that was on the monument of the grave from which we stole flowers. It was a young woman about 25 to 30 years old. I will never forget her look of some kind of condemning, not kind. And I already wanted to dissuade the girls from this idea and put flowers in their place, but they categorically refused, and we ran away with these flowers to our homes. I came home and put the flowers in a small vase. Grandma asked where they came from. I lied that a kind aunt gave them to us. Such flowers do not grow in the forest. They were pale pink in color and purple in the middle with inclusions. I ate and went to bed. I put a vase of flowers next to the bed on the nightstand. Before going to bed, I looked at them for a long time. They were very beautiful. I fell asleep. I don't know how much time passed, but I woke up in the middle of the night from the fact that I couldn't breathe. There was a feeling that something was suffocating me. Having opened my eyes, I saw a black shadow in front of me like smoke that pressed on me with such force as if a person was strangling me. I experienced such horror. I couldn't say a word or shout anything. I thought it was just a terrible dream. Losing consciousness, and I woke up already from the fact that my grandmother was shaking me by the shoulders and crying. I remember how she screamed, "Luna! Luna! What's wrong with you?" I was sobbing and shaking. Grandma hugged me to her. I looked at the flowers, which had shrunk and turned black, as if they had stood for a very long time. And then it dawned on me what I had done. I'm writing this now and my hands are shaking. It's very painful to remember it. The morning came, I got dressed and ran outside without saying anything to my grandmother. I run to my friend and knock on her mother's door. I ask if Tanya will come out. Her mom says Tanya is bad. She won't come out, and Tanya had glanced out in the corridor, and I realized from her tear-stained eyes that something had happened to her too. I come home and my grandmother is in tears. I sat down next to her and asked what happened. And she, "Luna, your friend Jane is gone." I'm hysterical. No one knows what happened to her. In a month I'm going to my mother in the city. I didn't go to my grandmother anymore, and I don't come. She takes offense at me, and I can't tell her why I'm not coming. Please don't judge me. Life has already punished me for what we did at the cemetery. You can only be so brainless as a child. Since then, I have been terrified of the cemetery, and I visit a psychologist.